efforts by the federal, city, county level in coping with the pandemic, acknowledgement of deeds and actions by people of organizations during the pandemic, and also post-COVID-19, where we go from here. And briefly, if our panelists would like to unmute their mics, just say hello to everyone just briefly, and then we'll move on to our first segment.
Hello, I'm Anthony Brown, and as Mayor Gant mentioned, I have the privilege of representing you in the 4th Congressional District. I really enjoy the work that we're able to do with the mayor and her team, and supporting and serving our shared constituents in the town of Edmonston. And it's a real honor to be on this evening and to recognize our heroes from Edmonston.
Yes, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Gant, for inviting all of us. I certainly consider it an honor to be with both our congressman and Mr. Hancock, and of course you, Madam Mayor. But I'm Aisha Braveboy, the state's attorney for Prince George's County. I grew up here in this beautiful county, and it's an honor and privilege to serve as the top law enforcement officer. This is going to be a really interesting discussion because no one thought that we would be facing a pandemic, right? And so all of the things that we're learning and we're doing differently, some of it I think will continue even after the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And I think there's some great lessons learned. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation this evening.
Fantastic. Mr. Hancock?
And thank you, Madam Mayor. It is really an honor for me to be on this panel with the state's attorney for Prince George's County, the congressman who I served or had the pleasure of working with as a delegate and as a lieutenant governor of Maryland, and now as congressman. And State Attorney Braveboy was actually a delegate for a while, and I had a chance to work with her. So it's great to see everybody, although it is virtual.
Yes.
I wish we were in the same room. I've worked for municipalities all my life. I love municipal government, and municipal government's where it's happening. And so I'm really looking forward to this discussion as well. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you all. And as I mentioned before we went on air, you are heroes. You're my heroes. And I'm just so honored to have you here with me tonight. Thank you for accepting the invitation. So let's move into our talk. The first segment, we're going to address experiences and challenges of the pandemic. So to anyone who'd like to jump in, well, actually, I'm going to start with Madam Braveboy. What are some of the experiences and challenges you've had or you faced during this pandemic on a personal and also a professional basis?
So personally, it has really affected me because I have parents who live prevent the spread. My parents are a little older. They're in that age group that, if they contract the coronavirus, it could be very deadly. And so I'm cognizant of that. And because I'm out and about, even though I'm practicing safety and social distancing and all those things, I don't want to be the cause, the reason for them, getting sick. And so, we've seen each other virtually. I go visit them. I'm allowed to drop off food and other supplies, and then I have to drop that off in the garage, and then I stand back, and then they open the door and wave. And but the point is, I do miss being able to go to their home and just sit around and talk for hours. And so personally, having parents who are older, it's tough. It is tough. But I also recognize that because, at least at the beginning, you couldn't do a whole lot. You were pretty much home.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time with my dogs and with my sister and my nieces. And I really got to enjoy just being around family. And you don't realize how much these jobs take away from family time and quality time. So personally, I think I have been it has actually been good in terms of finding more of a balance in life. Mm-hmm. But there has been tragedy. So I've known people who have passed away I've attended a couple of funerals during this pandemic. One was of a young lady who died as a result of catching the coronavirus, who was one of our baggage handlers at a local store. And then one of my good friends lost her father, not from COVID, but it's a tough time to lose people during a pandemic because you can't, have the same type of interactions. Everyone can't be there, that type of thing. So personally, it's been challenging. But I think professionally, what I have seen is, just managing an office. I have about 200 employees. So managing them, ensuring that they are safe, letting them know that their safety is my first priority. So having an effective telework strategy, which we do have in place, which we have now, but we're going to continue that even after the pandemic, because I think what I've seen is that we can still get work done, and there's opportunity for people to spend time with family, and it's a better work-life balance when you're able to do that. So we have an effective telework strategy. We looked at some of the areas where we know we could have impacted, like our jails. I mean, initially at the start of the pandemic, we were concerned about COVID getting into our jails. And though I don't control the jail itself, we do make recommendations on pretrial conditions for individuals who may be at the jail. And so we were able to really reduce the jail population very significantly during this pandemic to try to keep those numbers down, to allow for more social distancing. And so when there was COVID present at the jail, at least the numbers were relatively low based on the number of people who were at the jail. And even now, I think the last time they did mass testing, I don't think that that anyone tested positive at that time. And I know they continue to do testing. So I think we played a small role. I'm not saying that we take total credit for it, but we played a small role in that. But moving forward, trials are now starting up. So now we're managing course, feelings about being back in the courtroom, being around defendants, other attorneys, the judges, the staff in the courthouse. So Judge Adams has done a great job of, I think, like providing for PPE and social distancing and really thoughtful ways of starting trials again. But of course, there's that anxiety, right? Because you have people who work for you who have, pre-existing conditions and who are nervous just in general about entering a courtroom and being around a whole bunch of people in a confined area. So I'm doing my best to ensure that we have our PPE, that we address every issue that's brought to us so that, my staff feels comfortable. So this is, it's personally and professionally, I would say it's been a time of growth and evolution and understanding what's really important.
Thank you. Thank you. Congressman?
Yeah. It sounds like, the state's attorney and I, we've had similar experiences. And I'll just start personally. We're all individuals, and, I'd be kidding myself and anybody else to say that it hasn't had a personal impact on me. I feel blessed that my family is healthy. We have not had a COVID-related health crisis or incident in my family. Financially, we're doing fine, but I am burdened knowing that so many Prince Georgians and Marylanders face, a health crisis and a financial crisis, and it weighs heavy on me. I know Michelle Obama just a few weeks ago talked about how, it causes depression. And while I wouldn't say I'm clinically depressed, there are some heavy days.
Absolutely.
That people out there are suffering and struggling, and particularly knowing that it's my responsibility. Part of my responsibility is to be responsive to that suffering. I'm really proud of the men and women who work in my office. I think that while we are physically distanced from our constituents, I feel in many ways we are now closer, and I feel like I'm closer to my constituents, because where I've in the past tried to have a balance between the time I spend at home in the district with my constituents and the work on Capitol Hill, I haven't been on Capitol Hill as much, and work in Congress has slowed down because of the pandemic. So I actually spend more time working with my team on constituent matters. So I almost feel like I'm closer to my constituents during this pandemic. Our normal caseload goes on, not processing, but responding to requests for help when whether it's a VA disability claim or a Social Security benefit that someone's waiting for, and they've been waiting. And then on top of all that, the pandemic sort of related requests for assistance, whether it's someone didn't get their direct cash assistance from the federal government, they're having difficulties with the Maryland State Department that issues unemployment insurance checks. So our caseload has really gone up, and it's been very stressful on my staff. But I've got a great staff, and I truly appreciate that. And I'll just, because I could go on and on, but I just also want to share with viewers and that it impacts every workplace, right? And Ms. Bradeboy talked about how they're going to resume trials, and it's going to be a little bit different, probably a lot different. So on Capitol Hill, the one thing that everybody knows that we do is we pass legislation. We vote on bills on the floor of the House. And usually when we're on Capitol Hill 3 or 4 days a week, we'll vote on anywhere from 2 to 12 or so pieces of legislation. If we have a heavy docket and we're going to go to the floor and vote on 12 bills or amendments or combination, that might take us 2 hours. Today, to vote on 12 bills, that'll take us no less than 10 hours to do. Because you can't come to the floor and vote one after the other. Instead, we bring members to the floor in alphabetically by groups. So in 7 different groups, they come to the floor, they vote, they leave, they come to the floor, they vote, they leave. That's one vote. And then an hour later, they have to clean the floor, and then we start our second vote. So where we could do, let's say, 7 votes in an hour and 15 minutes, it takes us 6 hours to do 7 votes. So it has a real impact on everybody's workplace and the way that we do business, an impact on everybody's personal lives. And I'm sure, just as Scott will share as well, that's no less true for those of us that serve in public office and serve our constituents.
Thank you. That was a great description. That was great.
And
Mr.
now I'm concerned about what the General Assembly of Maryland's how they're gonna operate this year, based on what's going on in the Congress. It's going to be very, very different in January for sure.
Right.
I want to focus a little bit more, I guess, on the challenges municipalities have had since the pandemic began in Maryland in March. And the Congressman knows this very well. When the CARES Act was funded, there was direct funding to all jurisdictions of a population of 500,000 or more. There is one municipality in Maryland that qualifies for direct funding, and that's Baltimore City. So that means out of 157 municipalities, 156 got no money from the CARES Act. The money went to the state. The governor, in his wisdom, and I'm pleased that he did something, because some of my colleagues across the country did not share any of that state money with their local governments. But the governor did share $364 million with county government. Except for Prince George's County, no other county government shared that money with their municipalities. The municipalities were forced to go to the county and ask for reimbursement if they could prove that it met the qualifications of the CARES Act. So it's been a real struggle for municipalities in Maryland, except for the graciousness and benevolence of County Executive Also Brooks, who took into consideration the needs of her 27 municipalities. No other municipality got direct funding other than Baltimore City from the CARES Act. That put us in a very precarious position. So that's a problem, but I can tell you the biggest challenge is what's to come. We are in dire need of help for our local governments. Our local governments that are the front line of everything that's going on in this pandemic. This is where people live. Municipalities, cities, towns are essential. And it's really important for us to get that information out to everyone. I applaud Congressman Brown for everything he has been doing and his colleagues in Washington. I know bills have been passed that will see some direct funding for cities and towns. I know there's people on the other side of the aisle who don't want to see that happen and don't want to fund the cities and towns where they need to be. So I would say, in conclusion on this question, Madam Mayor, the biggest challenge we have is financial. And again, the worst is yet to come, I'm afraid.
Thank you for being so frank, Scott. We greatly appreciate that. I tell you, again, you're our heroes. And Madam State's Attorney, when you talked about your parents and not being able to, really reach out to them and get as close as you want, that brought chills, because my parents are in Delaware, and they're older, and so that really affects you. And thank you for that. And Congressman, when you talk about, we never even thought about the fact that you have to sanitize again after you vote. And oh my gosh, being out there all those hours, thank you. That we wouldn't have thought about that part. So that was really good information so that we can understand what you go through and what other representatives go through. And thank you for that description, Scott, about the CARES Act and how great Prince George's County is. And that our county executive and those who are in charge were able to funnel that money to the municipalities. Thank you so much. And I want to move on to the next question would be, how important is it, with all of what you described, to collaborate with other agencies? And have you collaborated with other agencies? What's the importance of it? And I'll start with you, Congressman Brown.
Sure. Having spent time in state government in Annapolis, as you mentioned, and Scott mentioned as well, 8 years in the General Assembly, 8 years Lieutenant Governor, now 4 years as a member of Congress. My experience is that we in the public sector can deliver best for our constituents when we're all working together.
Right.
Municipal, county, state, and federal government. And for the federal government, which is not as close to the ground as you are, Madam Mayor. I mean, you are where the rubber hits the road. You have more day-to-day interaction with your constituents than the county executive does, and the county executive has more than the governor. And even if we had a president that was acting like a president, governors have more interaction with their constituents than a president does.
Yes.
But we all have to work together. And as a member of Congress, one of the most important things that I can do is making sure that federal resources, the appropriations, the dollars, the authorizations where state and local government need the authority to do things, to make sure that those are in place. So that's why I was very pleased to work with Republicans when we passed the CARES Act. Money for frontline health workers, money for testing and tracing, money for higher education, the payroll protection program that helps so many small businesses. But unfortunately, that effort has come to a standstill because as we try to pass what we call the Heroes Act, which the House passed in May of this year, and the Senate has refused to act, there's a lot of important things in the HEROES Act that we have to get passed. And for me, the most important, and I've taken this position from day one, and I said I would not support the HEROES Act that had more money. It has more money for unemployment. It has more direct cash assistance, a lot more money for testing, contact tracing, and developing treatments and therapeutics. But among all those important things, the single most important thing for me was the $1 trillion for state and local government, which Scott referred to in his previous question. And in the HEROES Act, we addressed a lot of the concerns that Scott mentioned, and we reduced the size of the municipalities that would be eligible for the direct assistance from the federal government, recognizing that not every state or county are as generous and benevolent as Prince George's County to make sure that Edmundston gets their share of direct assistance from the federal government. So we addressed that in the HEROES Act. Yet it's frustrating because we're at the negotiating table and the president essentially refuses to negotiate. So that's probably the most important. It's that working, providing the appropriations and the authorization. But we also do constituent services together. Often, I get a request from a constituent saying that they're having difficulties with the state unemployment insurance program. So I may call a state delegate or a state representative and say, hey, because they're closer to that office, hey, could you help out here, right? I may have a constituent that says, hey, we're having difficulty figuring out where we can get tested. I'll say, maybe I'll refer them to either the county health officer, a county council member that can connect them to some of those resources. So we're always working together at every level of government to provide the necessary support to our constituents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Congressman. Madam Braveboy?
Yeah, so absolutely, we have to partner with other agencies. I mean, just looking at the courthouse, we are basically tenants of the courthouse. The courthouse is run by the courts, and we have two amazing chief judges. One is Judge Sheila Tillerson Adam of the Circuit Court, and then Judge Lisa Hall Johnson, who heads our district court. And so we have had to, of course, coordinate with them around just the safety in the building. So we worked with them to develop a safety plan for all of the employees. And I should say that also includes our clerk of the court, Mahasan Amin, our register of wills, Sarita Lee, our sheriff's department, because of course they're there protecting the courthouse. So all of us played a role in helping to shape what the protocol would be for the courthouse. And we did that with the guidance from the Prince George's County Health Department. So we worked very closely with the Also Brooks administration in developing all of those protocols and in acquiring all of the PPE. And in fact, the county government is our purchasing arm. And so we worked with them to acquire PPE for our suite within the courthouse. We actually had them come out and do an assessment, a safety assessment for us, so that we knew what additional kind of strategies we should do just internally within our state's attorney suites to protect our employees. But one of the biggest challenges we had was technology, because before things started opening up a little bit more and people felt a little bit more comfortable coming to work, there were a lot of folks working from home, which primarily people are working from home now. But one of the challenges was, do I have equipment? Not everyone had a laptop. Not everyone had, very few people had personal printers. So we worked very closely with the Office of Information Technology to acquire equipment, and they have been amazing. And what I recognized is that some of my employees had limited access to the internet. And you don't think about that because you take for granted often that everyone has access, but not everyone does. And so we had to acquire these little MiFis. So for those who did not have their own internet access, we were able to provide them with access. And so it just really opened my eyes, like I said, a lot more at, what our needs truly are. But we invested a lot in technology. We worked with our police department and our public safety communications to really kind of aggressively move forward with an electronic based evidence platform, which is something we did not have in Prince George's County. And it's a work in progress, but we're getting more evidence electronically, because I had staff members who had to just go in just to pick up discs or paper or whatever was sent to us by our public safety agencies. And that's just not the way that 21st century policing and prosecution should work, but that's what we were doing. But as a result, I think everyone recognized that we needed to invest more in technology, and we needed to stand up some of these platforms a little bit more readily. So it has really been that collaboration that has really gotten us through. And so we're very grateful. And of course, we are also grateful, Mr. Congressman, that we were able to get CARES Act funding, even our agency, because again, the county government is very, benevolent and wonderful. We were able to apply for some funding also for additional staff members to assist us, because we know we're going to have a huge backlog of cases, because even though trials are now have resumed, we can't have full trials the way we used to. And so like there are only 3 courtrooms where you can have jury trials now in the courthouse. And so there are very few cases happening, even though it has resumed. So we have this backlog that we need to work on, and we were able to get some CARES Act funding for that. So I want to thank our congressman for always being a advocate for the 4th Congressional District. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to move to Mr. Hancock. I have a different question for you. Concerning the municipalities, what are some of the general practices or innovative ideas that our municipalities have demonstrated during this pandemic?
Wow. How much time do you have tonight?
We have another segment.
I have to say, having been the league director for almost 25 years, I have always been in awe of the leadership and the heroes that run our cities and towns across the state. But some of the innovative things that they are doing across the state of Maryland to provide for their constituents, to provide for cities and towns. And about a third of the population of Maryland that lives in a city or town has just been remarkable. And I will start with sort of the overall concept of empathy. One of the things that you see from city and town leaders across the state, and I'm so proud of each and every one of them, because they care about their communities. They care about making sure that people have food. There are food pantries opening up all across the state of Maryland, a lot of them in Prince George's County, because people need to eat, and they're starving because they don't have any money coming in and they need the food. So there've been a lot of things like food pantry set up. I do want to give a shout out to Mount Rainier. One of the things that they did that I thought was really neat was they had fresh cut flowers that they had available. All you had to do was go to the mayor's house and pick up these fresh cut flowers that were on her front porch.
That's true.
To just liven up and pretty up.
Make people feel, yeah.
Exactly. And so the empathy piece is, I think, the most important thing. But we've all had to pivot and do things differently. We've all had to learn how to run our council meetings through Zoom or other platforms like this. Very early on in the pandemic, the 2 mayors, one from Salisbury, Mayor Jake Day, and the mayor of Annapolis, Mayor Buckley, decided to do a social media campaign called Mayors in Mask. And it was all about, modeling how important it was to keep those face coverings on.
That's right.
And MML picked that up. Mayor Gant, you were one who had your face shown on the Facebook page, Mayors en Masse. So again, a modeling, setting the example for people to follow. Businesses have really been struggling, and our cities and towns are trying so hard to help their businesses. How can they help? One thing they can do is when we were closed to restaurant businesses, indoor seating, they closed streets across the state of Maryland and cities all across the state so that there was outdoor seating for the restaurants. And it meant that they had to close vehicular traffic from those areas just to provide that kind of support. Everybody does cleanups and try to clean up your stream and clean up the river, et cetera, et cetera. You can't do that as a group anymore. So what have cities and towns done? They've basically made a contest out of it, and they said, you clean up so much, take pictures of what you clean up whenever you're out for your walk, whenever you're out doing whatever you're doing by yourself or with your pod and your family. Clean up, take the pictures, send them to us, and we will send you a gift card. We will put your name on the front door of City Hall, because you're doing the things that we would do together. You're having to do them separately, but we're still getting those things done. I could go on and on, just repurposing buildings that cities own for testing sites, repurposing them for daycare centers in Cumberland. They did that. There have been a lot of innovative things that cities and towns have done, and they've done them because they had to do it. It was absolutely something that needed to be done, and we pivoted and made it happen. So I am, as you can tell, very excited about the things people have done with limited resources at this point, but we do it because we're there to serve our citizens. And as the congressman said, it's where the rubber meets the road. That's what cities and towns are all about. And I've been really, really proud of everything that's been going on in this pandemic in a very tough time.
Thank you. That was really informational. And thank you. Thanks to all the municipalities who are being so creative. And I know Edmonston falls right in there. Thank you so much. We're going to move to our second segment where we're going to talk about acts of volunteerism, support, and heroism during this pandemic. And right now, we're just going to take a brief moment to look at a short video.
a huge new protocol. So I invited the county executive and the sheriff to introduce it to the county with me last week, and it went. But that could not happen without my staff, my team. And while they're still dealing with issues of their own families and the stress of work, we're able to still roll out big, new, bold initiatives to help protect people in our communities. So I want to give them a shout out. I also want to give my community affairs team. We are not only we've been working with the First Baptist Church of Highland Park for like the past 3 months, every single Saturday, giving out food baskets to families. But we've also held our own giveaways, food giveaways with some with municipalities, some with other nonprofits during the week. And in addition to that, because we know that a lot of our seniors can't get out to vote, we are working with our senior homes in the community, bringing them ballots. We brought them voter registration forms and absentee ballot forms, and we were able to get those to the Board of Elections. We worked with our Correctional Officers Association to do the same thing for those who are incarcerated but have the right to vote. We wanted to make sure that everyone who had the right to vote had the ability to vote. And we've been out in the community with our immigrant community, getting them pumped up, as well as our LGBTQ community. So I have to say I love my team. I think I got the best team around, and I'm sure all of you can say the same thing.
Yes,
but I really do.
yes.
They work so hard, and they're so innovative and so committed. And I always have to think, wow, but they also have families who worry about them when they're coming out to do the people's business. And so I am so grateful to have people who are willing to make that sacrifice, because they are going above and beyond.
That's wonderful. We cannot take your position lightly.
Thank you.
You touch in a huge way. Huge way. Thank you so much. And Congressman Brown, I know that you can't stay with us. You have to leave shortly, but I just wanted to ask you, are there people or organizations that you'd like to acknowledge for outstanding deeds? Anyone or any organization that has gone above and beyond during this time?
And I'll take that question. You also asked about volunteerism. And while we don't think about this in terms of traditional volunteerism and nor patriotism, to me, one of the most impressive acts of volunteerism and patriotism that I see every day are people who wear masks. And I remember the pandemic, I was so concerned about whether people would or if they wouldn't. And at first, some people did because we really weren't talking about masks. And then, of course, the conflicting, messages coming out of Washington. But I'll tell you, I was in a store the other day, and a young man was working in the store, and he had his mask on, but he wasn't really properly wearing it. And I checked him on it, and then I I was polite about it, and he was okay. And then I went around the corner, I came back, and it was kind of the same thing. And I approached him, and he said to me, he said, I'm really okay with you telling me that, pointing that out. It ended up that his mask just didn't fit properly. But what just struck me the most about it was this was a young man who, I didn't necessarily think that he was really all about wearing the mask, other than the fact that he had to because he was working there. But he genuinely expressed a concern, a desire, a willingness to want to wear a mask. And then we worked it out, and I talked to the manager in the store, and they got him the right mask. I also saw another situation where a woman was walking into a convenience store, and you know how that is. You jump out of your car, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, you don't have your mask."
Right.
And I observed someone pointed out to her, and I was expecting a little friction. No friction at all. She commented about "Oh, I left it at home," and this woman reached into her purse.
Thank God, actually.
And you could tell it was a brand new mask. It wasn't like she, gave her a used mask. It was a brand new mask. She said, "Here, you can have mine." It was one of those disposable masks. And I just, it's really, it means a lot to me to see how seriously people are taking it. And that's not true in every part of this country. And it's not true in every part of Prince George's County necessarily, or in every neighborhood or every store or whatever. But for the most part, we are seeing that. And when I do see it, to me, that is one of the highest forms of patriotism and volunteerism. But on a regular
Absolutely.
basis, I mean, whether I'm in the grocery store or whether I'm, I don't ride transit anymore, but I talk to a lot of the folks in Amalgamated Transit Union. They drive our buses, they drive our metro. Those are essential workers carrying essential workers to work. So you see that each and every day, the people that just show up at work who are essential employees. Think about that cashier in Costco or Giant or wherever you go grocery shopping. Their exposure every day to tens, hundreds, thousands of people. And while yes, the plexiglass is in place and the masks are in place, they put themselves at risk doing their basic job. And we often take them for granted, and it's unfortunate that a pandemic is what we need to recognize the value in what they do. But these are valuable essential workers. I think about our teachers also, who many teachers they're great educators, but maybe they've never delivered instruction virtually. And it's a whole different skill set, new technologies. And I commend them for stepping up and investing in themselves so they can invest in their children and deliver that education. So I just see a lot of, I don't know if I'd necessarily say volunteerism, certainly a lot of heroism, a lot of patriotism, a lot of just good deeds being done during this pandemic.
Thank you. Let me ask you a question from one of your comments about the gentleman and his mask. How did you end up working that out? Because I ask that because we'll find that there are a lot of people that are having difficulty with a mask. So how did you work that out?
I often, what I say to people, and what I said originally to this young man, I said, hey, don't forget to put on your mask, because I'm wearing my mask to protect you, and it would be helpful if you could do the same to protect me and others. Clicks for most people. They really do get it. And as I said, in that particular case, it ended up that the mask just wasn't fitting him right for whatever reason. So I went to the manager and I said, and it is the manager's responsibility to make sure that employees
yeah,
have the protections that they need for themselves, their customers, et cetera. So they were able to take care of them, no problem. I do. At first, I was hesitant. Fortunately, people don't necessarily recognize me with my mask on, so they don't think, "Oh, there goes that congressman," But I don't pull kind of rank like, "Hey, I'm Congressman." I do check people very politely, and sometimes just a matter of pointing to my own mask, and people are like, "Oh, that's right," and they'll pull it up.
Right.
Yeah. I think people are getting a lot better at it. I really do.
Yeah, that is true. That is
Madam
true.
Mayor, I've got to run. I appreciate the opportunity to spend with
Thank
you.
you so much. Yes.
And with Scott Hancock from MML and Aisha Brayboy, our extraordinary state's attorney.
Yes, indeed.
And let me just finish by saying, in the absence of a vaccine, our best medicine is physical distancing, face coverings, proper hygiene, and following CDC protocols. And as Aisha mentioned, even when we get to whatever that new normal is, much of what we're doing today, we will continue to do, sort of remote engagements. So stay safe and take care of one another. Bye.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for what you do, Congressman. We
appreciate
appreciate
it. Appreciate you. And that was great. I'm enjoying this conversation here. But Mr. Hancock, I want to ask you, so from hearing all of this from Madam Braveboy and our congressman, what does this say to you about resilience during this pandemic?
Well, what it tells me, and I'm again proud that I live in Maryland. I'm proud that I live in Maryland, because Maryland is really setting a significant example for others to follow, whether it be the mayors in mask that I talked about earlier, the congressman just making the point about how important that is, the wonderful things that people are doing, you know, in the state's attorney's office in Prince George's County to serve the citizenry. We are a resilient state. We're a resilient people. And I think everybody in Maryland understands the importance, whether it be at the municipal level or the county level or the state level. We know that it's important for everybody to work together. And one of the things we were talking about, collaboration earlier, Mayor, collaboration, everybody working together. How many times have we heard we're all in this together? We are all in this together.
Yes.
And if we work together, we're going to get through it together. So I think resilience is Maryland. That would be my answer.
Absolutely. Thank you. Our state's attorney, do you, yes, our state's attorney, do you want to follow up with that at all? Before we move into our third segment, what does this say to you about resilience?
You know, what I think it says is that, you know, we're such a great state. Let me just tell you that. And we've got, like he said, some dynamic municipalities. But what I've seen more than anything is that, you know, there's a level of humanity that is so beautiful to witness, because oftentimes in the hustle and bustle of, you know, the regular world, you don't stop to sometimes say, hi, how are you doing? Have those conversations. Do you need something? You know, we don't do that often. And during this time, we've kind of been forced to do it, but also it feels good to do it. It feels good to know that I can be there for someone and someone can be there for me. It feels good to see how many people are willing to sacrifice. I remember like during the time where, you know, you couldn't go out, couldn't get your hair done, couldn't get your nail, none of that. I have like you know, I call her my good friend, but she is my hairdresser. You know, I would just send her money randomly, because what I recognize is that I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, but she wasn't. You know, she didn't have her normal clientele, and she's you know, she has children. You know, she's a mom, and while yes, she could apply to perhaps get, you know, some money through unemployment or other means, it's not replacing what she was losing. And when you start living a certain lifestyle, it's hard, you know, to make that huge adjustment. So when you're in the service industry, which is the hardest hit industry, you really do need support, because these are people who like to work, who've worked all their lives, who didn't ask to be in this situation, who are not lazy. This is not of their own doing. It was just circumstance. Like their job was dangerous to perform, you know. And so it made me feel good just to be able to do something selflessly. But it wasn't just me. I saw so many people doing things that were selfless, even people who did not have a lot to begin with. They said, you know what, but I have something to give. And I just love the fact that we have so many people who just believe in humanity, believe that even if they give of something and it's hard for them to give because they don't have a lot, that they will be provided for. So I'm not going to get all spiritual, but my point is you have to have faith. You have to have faith sometimes. Yes. And I saw a lot of people exercising that faith, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why I was starting to get emotional right there. But I think about heroes, some heroes that I've seen are the parents, the caretakers of the children that are home now, while they're trying to either find a job or keep their job, to learn to adjust to working at home while you're trying to get your children on Zoom, while you're trying to make sure that they're where they're supposed to be on the computer, while you have that maybe infant in the home, just while you're cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because you don't have the opportunity to run outside. And thank goodness for the schools that are providing lunches. I mean, I say bravo to the schools who are providing lunches. And yet some of the parents can't leave outside of their homes to go to take advantage of that great opportunity. And so you have parents that are cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks in between, and having someone in the background saying, mommy, 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 or daddy, 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 or having to take their children to another caretaker while they go out in the community and work, and are sort of fearful to come back home because they've been exposed to people and their children haven't. I think about those heroes that haven't really touched another individual because they're single. You know, I know that the Congressman Brown, he just mentioned that distancing is the best thing right now, but distancing is absolutely the best. It's going to save our lives. But also, when you're at home with that safe person, it's good to give them a hug. That I mean, that's the survival right there. We're learning to be more creative at home. We're more learning to be more creative on our jobs. I mean, I think our state's attorney mentioned about some people not being so techie, and having to set up computers and so on and so forth. The county is going through that now. I know that I'm on the task force, the COVID-19 task force, and we're talking about government and the best policies, the best practices for employees staying home. And some employees can't take it at home. You have some old school employees that need to be in the office. If I go and move one paper from here to there, that satisfies them. So we have so much to think about, and so much creativity that that we're exposing right now. So this pandemic didn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, but it's also bringing out some creativity and some new ideas from all of us. So if there's no other comment on this segment,
I just want to add one thing.
Yes.
I want to give people a hug too, but give them a virtual hug. Call them, email them,
yes,
talk to them, let them know you care.
Yes.
That's what we can do, even in these circumstances. And I think it will make a world of difference. I really do.
Yes, absolutely. And even also with that hug, I'd like to throw in, take advantage of the free COVID testing. It does your mental state good. It does those who are around you some good. And you might find out either you do or you don't. Take advantage of it. At one point, we couldn't get enough testing. Now we have points and places where you can go get tested. Don't be afraid. Go ahead and take that chance. Do it. So thank you. That's a virtual hug right there for your loved ones and yourself. So as we move on to our third segment, we want to salute our Edmonston heroes. And I guess our state's attorney will get emotional with me, but I know Scott too, Mr. Hancock, he can get a little emotional as well. So this is the time to let it all out. But I want to talk about the town of Edmonston and some heroes that we have here. And we have some stories that we want to share. It's just, I know that everyone has so many stories, or a neighbor who is dropping off groceries and they don't even know who it is, but every time they open their door, there's a package there for them. They have neighbors who just have given them that virtual hug by a phone call, just checking on them. We do that to our employees as well. And I just want to mention that with my employees, I appreciate them. I'm a property manager as well as, of course, the mayor. And I have employees that come to work every day. I have maintenance workers who have to go into apartments to work and do repairs and so on every day. And so they put their lives on the lines. And so what I try to do is provide them different treats or ways to say thank you. You know, breakfast, lunch, flowers, whatever I can do for my employees that I know are there. And it's not everybody that's making a top salary. It's people who are sacrificing, who love their jobs or understand responsibility. So if you're an employer, take the time to give your employees a special thank you, whether it's a card or, I don't know, let them off of work early, something. Give them a hand clap, something. So those are just some of the things that I do, and I just like to push that out to you guys. Our first hero, they're not here tonight. They're not able to sign on due to technical issues, but it's Victory Grace Center. And Victory Grace Center is popular because they are helping many, many families in Prince George's County. I'm thankful for Victory Grace Center. They have been operating out of the town of Edmonston for several months now. We started every other month, every other week, and now we do every Saturday. We distribute food to residents in Edmonston and also around the county. And they also distribute food on Fridays. And I'm sure it's other days that they do it as well. They run a wonderful operation. A lot of it is funded by the church and their donations, as well as Wegmans and Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's also provides donations to the families. And they also give out flowers as well. And I know I see the smiles on the faces when you hand them a food basket. And I mean good food. Good food. Sometimes it's hot food, it's good food. Groceries from milk to eggs to bread, meat every week. And I'd like to give Victory Grace a hero shout out and a thank you so very much for all that you do for the communities. They also have done Zooms on voting. That Victory Grace, they reach out to the community. So thank you so much, Victory Grace. And as we move on to our second hero, our third hero. Okay, as we move on to our second hero, actually I found out since Victory Grace isn't here, we're still able to show their video. So we're gonna pause just for a moment to see their video.
I'm Larry Parrish. I'm the Executive Director for Shine CDC. This is a combination between Victory Grace Center, Shine CDC, where we're here every Saturday giving out food to ensure that we are feeding the needy and meeting the need during this COVID-19 to ensure that everyone has a hot meal on their plate. So what's happening right now, all the volunteers are assembling the food. We're going to assemble the food. We'll have everybody sign their waiver, their sign in, and then we'll give the food out today between 11 and 12.
So someone comes to me, and then I get their first name and last name, their phone number, and I take their temperature and the time that they come in and the time they come out.
SHINE stands for Sharing Hope in a Negative Experience. We purchase some of the food, and then some of the food is donated by Trader Joe's. But we just want to thank our pastor, Dr. Jazz. She is the founder of the Shine CDC nonprofit, and she's our senior pastor for Victory Grace Center. We've been doing this now for about 4 or 5 months, and it's been going extremely well with the partnership with here with the mayor, and it's just a great way to come out and meet the need of the community.
Thank you, Victory Grace. Every Saturday they are here distributing food with a smile and with that team. The young lady was mentioning that she gets the name, the time, checks them in, the time they come in and the time they leave. That's the volunteers. So the volunteers that come in, they have to get their temperature taken, they get gloves, masks, and they get signed in and signed out. So they take all measures to ensure safety of our community. And then second is an Edmonston resident. His name is Emil King, who helped neighbors in need during the September 10th flood that we experienced in Prince George's County. the heroes. Watch this video.
My husband, Emil is his name, was actually out with our 3-year-old son grocery shopping when the rain started coming down really hard.
It was 4 feet and some inches. By the time she went over there, she said the water was up to here for her.
They came home, he grabbed our son out of the car, and at that moment we heard some screams, or what sounded like screams. And they were coming from next door. It happened so quickly. He handed my son to me and he said, go in the house. But he took off towards the fence next to our house.
They were screaming, so she had to, run in and try to get them out. It was basically seconds, because when she tried to grab or close the door, there was a refrigerator behind over there. So the door and then the framing of the door came a rip off. So that pulled the refrigerator and it fell.
He went essentially took some stairs down into their basement apartment. He said he got down there and the water was basically coming down the stairs like a waterfall. At that point, I guess he attempted to open the door to go into the house, only to realize there's a refrigerator that had fallen over and was floating and basically bobbing up against that main door.
He had I think it was a piece of wood, thinking that he needed to open the door to go and save, the kids, because they heard them screaming. He just made sure that the kids were, safe, because it was nothing that he couldn't do in the back, to avoid the water coming there. She said that she really wants to, she really appreciates Mr. King for taking that quickly, response to go and help, to make sure that the kids were okay and that she was okay.
The flood took us all by surprise, and you never know the experience of individuals who may have been trapped in their homes. And thank God that Mr. King heard the family's cry and was able to help out and save the individuals in there. Water and that pressure that comes down and closes that door. And I tell you, we have Mrs. King on the line now. When she explained that story to me outside one day, it just, I couldn't help but feel the fear that she felt and the emotion that she felt. Right now, we'd like to, is Mr. King available, Mrs. King, Miss Kelly?
Yes, he is. I've been holding him off for quite a while here, but here he is.
Mr. King.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm great. And on the behalf of the town of Edmonston, I have Ms. Aisha Braveboy, our state's attorney here, as well as Mr. Scott Hancock. He's an MML executive director. And I also had our representative, Anthony Brown, here to say thank you for being a hero. And we recognize you tonight. Your wife explained the story to us, and she's so in love with you, and you're her hero as well. So we want to say thank you.
I appreciate that. Why am I like in my t-shirt?
Because your wife kept it a secret. Thank you, Miss Kelly. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Yes, and thank you for saving lives and being a great neighbor. You're our hero. So thank you.
I don't think so, but sure, we'll take that. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay on and continue as we announce another hero. Our third hero is Victorine Avon and Betsy McCulley. Betsy McCulley is actually a council person in our town, and Miss Emseret. They're Edmonston residents who helped other residents during this September 10th flood. Let's look at the video. Emil, did you even see your video? think he hears me. Did he hear me?
Too.
September 10 was definitely a day to remember in town of Edmonston. There was water coming from every angle, and that's when I hit the streets to make sure my neighbors were safe. And that's when I ran into Ms. Betsy here on Kenilworth Avenue, just checking on the community as well. And our friend, Ms. Metzert, which she couldn't be here today, so I want to thank her for her services to the community.
The two of us, I think we hit about every street in the town.
Yes, ma'am.
To make sure that everybody was okay.
Yep.
Checked on them. Yep. And that was at the time that I think a young man came, or a couple
screaming.
Kids came. Yep.
Well, young man, I believe it's the young man's brother. He came screaming for help, and that's when I immediately ran around back to see where, help was needed.
At that time, I was on the phone with 911 explaining where we're at, what was going on. I came around, and about that time, the window...
Right, we had opened the window from the outside, and that's when we free him from the basement.
And, it was bad as that day was. It was a beautiful day.
It sure was.
Because there was no one out there that was not willing to help.
The great news is nobody was hurt, nobody got injured, and we didn't lose a single life. So that was, a job well done from everyone.
My husband, Emil, is...
Thank you. Now, do we have Ms. Evan and Ms. Betsy on the line? Yes. And so while they're coming in, I wanted to ask Mr. King, did you see your video?
No, I don't look at anything that I'm on. So
well, you weren't on it. Your wife was. Your wife was on it.
Okay. No, I haven't seen it. She just told me about it.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get that for you. But is Miss McCulley? I don't see Miss McCulley. I see your name, Miss McCulley.
I see my name up there too. You know how terrible.
That's my wonderful council person. I tell you, that is her.
I made it in.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I'm not sure if Miss Victorine is coming in. Okay. We just showed your video of you and Miss Victorine and your heroism on September 10th. And we're just waiting for Miss Victorine to come in.
And I did my best to behave during the video.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. She's the one that I kind of have to nudge. And the good thing is she's not sitting near me where I can nudge her, but she's the one. But she is a hero. She loves the town of Edmonston. She's a former...
I did what anybody else could have done.
Yes, yes. You said that day. I mean, I loved when you said it was a difficult day, but a beautiful day.
It was. I mean, everybody came together, and you know what? It still warms my heart because everybody was out there helping everybody else. No one cared who needed it, but they were there to help.
So I'm not sure what's happening with Miss Victorine. Maybe it's technical issues, but I wanted to say thank you so much for being a hero. Even though you're a council person and people think that you're just supposed to do it, but your heart made you do it and allowed you to do that. And thank you so much for being just a wonderful person and being committed to the community and your residents. And I want to say that to the both of you for being wonderful individuals. Mr. King, Mrs. King, Ms. McCulley, just for being wonderful and giving to your community. And right now, I'll even offer the state's attorney and Mr. Hancock to open your mic and give a comment, if you'd like, to our heroes in Edmonston.
Yes, thank you so much for being heroes. And, you know, so often people always think, well, someone will take care of it, but you are the someones who are taking care of it. And so we are very grateful for you. So I just really want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And if there's ever anything that our office can do for you, please let us know. We certainly would love to partner with you. We certainly hope you never need us because you have a case or anything.
I know. Let's understand what you do.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Oh, yes.
Oh, there she is, Miss Victorine. That's our other
Hi.
hero.
Congratulations.
Hi, everyone.
That's the state's attorney,
Oh,
Miss Aisha Brave
oh,
Boy.
Congratulations,
thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Victorine. Yes, you guys are
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm in the hospital. I have bad reception, so I can't hear you all.
That's her. That's where she works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your work, your service.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And,
And
let
also-
me just say on behalf of all the cities and towns in Maryland who I have the honor of representing, you live in a town, and that makes you very special
Yes.
people.
Thank you.
To our new elected official from Edmonston, look forward to meeting you in person and introducing you to the Maryland Municipal League. It's going to be people like you is the people we need in elected office and municipal government. You'll fit right in just fine.
She
Oh,
does.
thank you.
This is her second time around, Scott. She was a former council person, and she loves it so much she had to come back. She had to come back while I was mayor.
That's right. I had to come back with Tracy. I miss Tracy.
Thank you so much. And I tell you, this has been a touching and real. I mentioned to our panelists, state's attorney and our representative, Anthony Brown, and to our executive director of the Maryland Municipal League, that they are heroes as well, because people have to understand that even though you have the position, you are human and you face the same things that we face. So just hearing from them and them accepting the invitation to come to Edmonston and be part of the panel has just been, hopefully we can get both of you a video of your, all three of you, your videos of your heroic acts. If there is no other comments, I open the floor just for brief comments. We've held everyone for a good little while, but I'm sure this has been a fantastic topic. So if I'll go down the row. Mr. Hancock, do you have a closing comment?
Thank you so much for including me tonight. I really have enjoyed being a part of the panel and meeting these heroes from Edmonston. And Mayor, you know, you're very special to me. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. And Ms. Brave Boy, I'm going to leave you for the final thought. And Ms. McCulley,
Hey,
council person.
I love my town.
We know it.
I love
That's
my
for
town.
sure. Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. and Mrs. King and family.
I would just say thanks for giving me an opportunity to shine some light on this very special young man.
Yes. Oh, I love love. I love love.
Old man.
Thank you.
And our state's attorney.
Well, I'll be very brief, and I want to thank you, Madam Mayor. And I know that you recognize all of us as heroes, but I think all of us will say that you're a hero too. And you show leadership, you show compassion and humility, and those are all of the attributes we need to get us through. So with your leadership, I know that your town will get through this pandemic, and you'll lead the way for the rest of us as well. So thank you for being a hero.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us tonight and the acts of heroism and just for being who you are and contributing to the community. I'd like to tell everyone about our next show, which will be November the 18th, our Edmonston Talks. And our topic is going to be the economy during the pandemic. So be sure to tune in and tell others to tune in. and we will see you soon. Let's give each other a virtual hug, a virtual hero hug. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.